New York, new rock, live music and promotion.
Let's roll.
Darryl Hell from New York, New Rock. We're here at the Limelight at the Terminal Sect CD release party. We like to introduce Terminal Sect right now. We have Howard, and he can introduce the rest of the band.
This is Colin, the other half of Terminal Sect. This is Chris, very instrumental. I don't know, I just think there's like a new life that's coming to the whole scene again. And there seems to be a real emphasis on the value of music, I think. It just got really, it got really stale for a while.
And slick.
Yeah, I mean,
and slick.
Polished.
Yeah, exactly.
We're trying to take industrial music beyond the beat and introduce a little bit more melodic and lyrical or prose kind of idea, and more conceptual, you know, and try not to just concentrate so much on the beat and the bass line and just get the dance floor moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you know we had enough of them.
Yeah, enough of that, right?
Yeah, it's time to take it one step beyond, I think.
So now, what do you think about the experimental movement?
Well, I think it's been a love for a long time, and I think it's been an influence. Things have gotten really commercial over the past 2 or 3 years, and I think the whole premise behind what we were doing was not necessarily the success story, so to speak, but just the idea that we were sort of given the opportunity to express ourselves, and I don't know. It's just, it seems really great. There are a lot of people that are very receptive to that, and it seems that the whole scene has gotten away from that. So I guess sort of an ulterior motive is to get people back to really sort of experiencing life all over again.
Sure, and really experimenting through the music and feeling something instead of like, you know, the pop culture model.
There's no bullshit involved. I mean, it's not an idea of putting out a CD and hoping that everybody would buy it and whatnot. I mean, if everything crashes, you know, after tonight, then we're still successful.
Sure.
It's all far exceeded our expectations, you know.
Yeah.
In that sense of the word.
Absolutely.
So how do you feel about the whole, what people would consider the Trent Reznor trickle-down effect? Because, well, seriously, because, like, you know, Trent Reznor can come in and fill, you know, blah, blah, blah stadium, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if a band like Numb can play New York and only less than 200 people show up, then what do you how true do you think that really rings off?
I mean, you have to respect Trent Reznor for what he's done for the whole movement in the sense that he's opened doors for a lot of people. I mean, he's signed bands like Coil, who really had a very underground and cult status following. You know?
Oh, no. Yeah, but I'm not slagging him. I'm just saying the idea that a lot of people think that because Trent Reznor, like, you know, because of 9 Inch Nails, of their media access, that it actually helped the industrial scene. And, like, you know, a lot of people...
Well,
a lot of people's opinion seems to be that it's really not.
I think it's going to give the opportunity for bands like Terminal Sect and Coil, as Colin mentioned, and other sort of experimental bands like Illusion of Safety and the Hathler Trio. I think we're sort of gaining ground in a way. I think that there's a lot of sort of uncovered or unexposed territory, and I would like to think that we'll just wait for the light to fall. I just think that sort of, I don't know, a side goal of what we're all about is getting, sort of getting this whole underground sort of scene out to the foreground without sacrificing the integrity, the musical integrity, the philosophic integrity, and whatnot. We didn't enter this whole sort of field of music with the idea of making lots of money and driving nice cars and whatever else.
Sure.
It's really from the heart, and it's a very true expression of something that I think people should really remember to take notice of.
Sure. No, see, the reason I was asking like that line of questioning is because it seems to be that the club support for industrial bands in general, besides the big name bands, really isn't that strong, and people, for whatever reason, consider themselves like apathetic, you know, because, well, there's no good new industrial bands. Well, have you heard of? Well, I haven't heard of them. Have you heard of? Have you heard? You know, so the reason, so I was talking about the trickle-down effect. Like, well, are the people that are going to Nine Inch Nails shows, are they the ones that are going to, like, you know, the more underground shows?
I think that the way Colin sort of described the idea of Trent opening doors is very true.
Definitely, I totally agree with that. No, 100%. You know,
I think it's time for people to get away from being easily amused, and I think that music has gotten placid to a point where it's time for people to wake up. Aside from the listener, I think the creator of the music as well.
Definitely.
I think it's time for us to sort of reassess our values. Not necessarily for the commercial aspect, but for the real, sort of the value of the art.
Sure. Well, via the now with that everybody's online, it's like that totally equalizes the playing field, because it's not.
I think it gives everybody a much better sort of access to what's happening. You know, underground doesn't necessarily have to be the unheard of music that
underground is a delivery
or order from a catalog.
Sure.
I think it's more of a philosophy, and in that philosophy, I think that's where our take on the whole thing really comes from. It was done without any kind of pretense, was created out of a need to create, not a need to expose.
Sure.
In a way. And I think if people, even if it's only 2 or 3 people that get that clue into that, then we've accomplished our goal.
So where are you planning on playing next, like on the road and via elsewhere?
We're working on a lot of things for the whole live presentation. We're going to be investing a significant amount of money in what we're doing and really taking it to the next level. I mean, we've got a CD out, and we're not just presenting a live show based on a few demos. We're presenting a live show based on, you know, a CD, and we're signed, and we're going to spend a lot of time and effort and really trying to present the ideas with the way the original intent was, and not the watered down version of what we were doing in the past. So, I mean, we're looking to play probably in June, July, you know, through most of the summer.
Yeah, I think the show is going to take on sort of a life of its own in a way. We have one tentative tour scheduled with Body Clock, Chris Moriarty of Control Bleeding. We'll probably take that to 6 or 7 states from here, hopefully out to about Chicago. And there are some other things in the works. And again, it's not for the idea of the tour or, you know, we're trying to stay away from the hype in the respect that I think it's time that people get back to the roots of what everything's about. And if we can do that with Chris, if we can do that with any other band or by ourselves, I think it'll really be worth it.
Cool. So is there anything, any other information that you'd like to give out, you know? As far as anything. Any last statements that you would like the people to hear?
I mean, as far as the CD is concerned, that's something that we really feel should be something that speaks for itself, but we would like people to consider that the conceptual nature of it, the fact that the idea of the Terminal Sect is the human race, and that human beings as a whole seem to believe that the human race is such a big thing on the grand scheme of things, and it's not. We're just a small sect of existence. We're a small little piece of time and space in the universe, and that's what being a member of the Terminal Sect is. We're trying to take humanity and make everyone realize that we're a lot smaller than we think we are. Well, Terminal Sect is about the human experience. So.
Thus, the human's condition.
The human's condition.
Yeah. Yep.
So with that kind of theology, then how do you feel about like our representation of like the industrial subculture? Well, really though, with like socio-political issues.
I think that Terminal Sect represents something that's bigger than it is physically. It's sort of a comprehensive viewpoint of where people are, where they've been, and where they're going to end up. And like Colin was saying, the whole idea of the human race being a very small part of a much larger existence, we take that into consideration as well. It's not a question of our word being gospel, so to speak.
Sure.
I think it's more of a question of just sort of a cluing in to where everybody may be, where everybody has come from, and maybe where everybody is going. You know, but it's certainly not a comprehensive sort of viewpoint on things, because life is larger than we are. We just sort of want to take a moment and stop and take notice of what's going on.
Sure, but see, the reason I said that was because now, because of our Congress,
Right.
that, you know, it's like, well, Roe versus Wade really affects everybody. So that's the reason I was saying, so how do you feel about our involvement in socio-political views and the idea of actually trying to mobilize, because the under 30 age bracket is basically left out?
I think it's time for us to plant our feet again. I think it's gotten sort of watered down, and it's really time for everybody to plant their feet again and clue into what's really going on.
Well, what do you think the reason is that the
Roe versus Wade, burning the flag, and all those bullshit smokescreen issues. You know, professional sports and all that crap, it's all smokescreen issues. That's all it is.
Oh, sure.
They're just trying to, you know...
It's time to open people's eyes again.
Yeah, but see, Roe versus Wade is more than just like blaming welfare for the problem instead of talking about culprit.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about if it's overturned, that will affect millions of people.
Yeah, countless.
You know what I mean? It's more than just, oh, well, that'll just happen and next. You know what I mean? So I think it's very important that we as a subculture move, and more than just like the idea of fashion and a movement to really move into.
We're very firmly rooted in our beliefs. And in that respect, I don't think the CD would have been written or produced or created if we didn't have strong beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, it was excellent talking to you.
And you as well.
Take care of yourself, man. Okay. By the way, what label are you? We didn't even get to what label you were on.
The Above Music.
And based out of?
Based out of, yeah, Center Reach, Long Island.
USA, of course.
USA, of course. Made in the...
Drunken Pumpkin Psychobabble. 15530.
That's it.
Mm. Last words?
I've gotten none.
Check it out.
Cool. Peace, man. Again.
Peace.
Darryl Hell, New York, New Rock. Peace.
New York, New Rock, live music and